The town population never seems to change. Every time somebody gets pregnant, a guy leaves. What's going on, YouTube? Today we're going to break down the ESO player population. We're going to look at how it changes throughout the year, but also the major differences between the consoles and the systems. That way you can know if you want to either optimize your 14-day trading window, know generally when a bunch of new players are coming in, returning players are coming in. That way you can optimize items and sets and things that sell to them, but also if you want to indulge in certain types of content, knowing when the player base is at the highest or when certain events are being highlighted. Therefore, you can do those activities and have a greater degree of success. So we're going to break it all down in today's video. Bit of a contentious video because it involves math, and math is always scary, but let's jump into it. But please quickly like the video. We do super fast YouTube intros, so please like and subscribe. And now, let's jump into it. Now, before everybody gets the pitchforks out, I just want to preamble this by saying when I went to the April Las Vegas event last year, for the ESO event, I asked them a very straightforward question. Which mega server, so that's NANEU, had the most amount of total players? And the answer was PlayStation. And everybody told me that I was wrong. And I don't know what to tell you because I asked again later and I got the same response. So the reason I think that this is true, and this is why I think that you should know this, is that ESO is actually free on the Game Pass on Xbox, and I believe it's still free with PlayStation Plus. There's no barrier to entry to play ESO. In fact, you used to even be able to, I think, play it with cloud gaming. You didn't even have to install the game. You could just go right into it. And if you saw the competition for MMOs on console, I mean, if it's not Final Fantasy, what are you people going to play, BDO? No, that's more like some BO. And while that doesn't tell the whole story, and don't worry, we'll turn the page here in just a little bit, but what's important to note is that if you do play on console, you're going to see a steady supply of brand new players. Brand new players are great for the Elder Scrolls Online economy because they usually buy, those low to mid-tier sets that you can easily farm and sell as kind of a mid-game to end-game player. They also usually farm raw resources and then sell those resources because you don't have to be 160 to farm resources, which is why pretty much all the bots do it, which unfortunately, there is a significant botting problem on console, which also helps to keep the economy very low. But also because there's a lot of brand new players, it's hard to inflate the economy because you're getting a steady influx of brand new players who don't have any money, so you can't inflate them out of the actual market, or else you wouldn't be able to make any sales. And when I actually spoke to the developers about this recently, just from an economic perspective, they actually do track the amount of gold that's owned by the player base, how much it moves, how much is removed for guild traders. And that was actually one of the key determinations that basically incentivized them to give out zone quests and give out more gold and XP for doing those, because a lot of new players would just go right into doing the zone storyline quests, which is fantastic. The problem is that you really didn't get a whole lot of rewards for doing so. So now they can get more gold, which will then give them more money to spend. It's also a consideration when they added the scrying system with the Greymore update and how they wanted to assess, how much money are people going to be making off of this. If they just scryed treasures and then sold them, how much would they be making? So when you're seeing that new influx of new and returning players, what are the best things for you to sell? Well, generally you want to sell them 160 leveled sets. Those can be crafted sets. You can also sell them XP potions. You're going to find that fairly commonly. They're also going to buy consumables. They're also going to buy glyphs because they all obviously need access to enchanting all of their things. Upgrade materials. You're just going to see tons of this stuff on the market. But even research traits are also very popular to purchase on the console economy. And now let's pivot to PC. And this may shock a lot of you guys, but I actually don't play on PC. So I used to, however, when the game was first released, I played for about a year on PC before switching to Xbox. And then obviously that's where I've stayed, made the most amount of friends, guildmates, etc. But the PC economy is exceptionally different. And that's why it needs to be broken down separately versus Xbox and PlayStation, which are almost the same. And because if you noticed it on Xbox, the draw waxes are around 2,000 to 3,000 gold each, but on PC, they're around 14,000 minimum, and that's if you buy them in stacks of higher than 1. And a lot of people get confused by this. Why is the PC market so different? And it actually comes down to a lot of the player base. A lot of the player base on PC consider themselves more endgame players. A lot of console players will actually go to PC to play a lot of times to either enjoy add-ons that they can min-max their builds, because there's so many nice add-ons and things that can do really unique things that you wouldn't be able to do on PC. So a lot of people will actually almost emigrate over to PC from the console servers, and it causes there to be a high end game population on PC. Also, the game existed for about a year longer than on PC, so people had an extra year to build wealth, collect items, and realistically, in that year period, there were some things that were kind of broken to get gold. So players had a lot more time to build their wealth. And the other fascinating concept too is a lot of the new players that do go to PC per capita, they're still significantly less than on console, meaning that those players that you would want to go pick up raw materials, sell them on the market, that doesn't usually occur. And it actually causes this bottleneck where there's more people who want consumables. That way they can farm trials, dungeons, 4-man content, infinite archives. They want to go do PvP, battlegrounds, dueling. There's so many consumables that are used that oftentimes the best gold methods are to purchase these satchels that give, access to re-ingredients. Whereas if you bought that same satchel on Xbox, you'd be like, this thing is almost worthless. You can find like 15 people farming this and 30 bots farming this at any given time, causing a stark difference between the two because there's not as many new players or bots farming those materials on PC. It causes those materials to become more sought after, and because there's more gold held by a larger player base, it causes inflation. And as a fun thought experiment, in the comments below, what is your current mega server's crown to gold ratio? Right now, 300 gold will get you 1 crown on Xbox relatively quickly. Some people will even find people to sell them as low as 200 gold for a single crown. On PC, I've seen it range as high as 3,200 gold for a single crown. And it just breaks down to the fact that there's more people with large chunks of gold on PC, and there's less people that are willing to sell them their crowns. Versus on Xbox, a lot of new players might want to come in. A lot of players like myself get their ESO Plus crowns, and they're like, I don't really need anything, because if I buy any more furnishing bags, items, I will have no place to store them. So I physically can't buy anything, even though those Halloween decorations do look really cool. And because of that, we will have more players on console that are usually willing to sell their crowns, so that new players, returning players, endgame players, they could buy DLCs, they could buy crown crates, furnishings, assistants, etc. And it's important to know, when does ESO do their actual major updates? And usually there's about 4 per year. The first one is usually in the springtime period, around the middle of March or end of March, depending on if you play on PC or console. Usually around that time period, you're going to get 2 new dungeons and a base game update that usually adds some new things. Notably, the biggest things that are usually added are additional rewards of the worthy set. That usually gets added in fairly often, but sometimes you see new mythics as well. Then there's your major, big, juicy, thick update that comes right in June. And then you have your fall update. That's usually your Q3 update. This used to be a different type of update. This used to be new dungeons, but since then they've actually changed this to be more of a quality of life update. Seeing additions to the Infinite Archive, home tours. We have new class set, new skill style. So like nothing super major, just more of a kind of quality of life thing, more things to collect and whatnot. And then we finish off with our big base game update. That's our Q4 marquee update. Last year was Infinite Archive, which a lot of people really loved. And this one is a PvP update. We have new scribing skills, new PvP sets, a whole refresh to Battlegrounds, 2 new companions, and a whole bunch of other goodies to go along with it. But it's just important to note that this one is coming on October 28th and November 13th. So now we kind of know when around the player base is getting all these major updates, because that's when we're going to see spikes in the player base. There's also some other things too that are going to cause some spikes. And now let's talk about the contentious Steam numbers. Important to note with these Steam numbers, though, is that obviously the majority of PC players don't use Steam. And in fact, with over 22 million accounts created, majority of those are probably not through Steam. However, What is important to note, though, when it comes to Steam is that if you're seeing a mass increase, decrease, or plateauing of the player base, that's probably across multiple consoles and other things. The only exception being is that PC does get updates faster than Xbox, so you may see a peak faster, the player base return faster because there's an update for them to play on PC versus one for them to play on console. And if you're curious, April 2020 was the highest ESO player pop it has ever seen on Steam. And for those of you who are like, that's really weird, what was going on in April of 2020? No major updates going on in April. It was because of this virus that kind of happened, and a lot of people didn't have to go to work and school for a little bit, except for, unfortunately, your boy, because he was an essential employee who had to still go to work, unfortunately. But most people were able to have extra free time to play games during that time. Also, most content creators saw the largest spike in their audience, viewing numbers, YouTube numbers during this time period. Unfortunately, I hadn't started YouTube at the time. But for a lot of people who were like, this is just so weird. Why was April of 2020 the highest time that The Elder Scrolls Online had for average and peak players? That's why. And another trend that you'll notice is that the holiday periods also see a high increase in the ESO player count. And the reason for that is actually not necessarily due to any of the updates, even though Q4 is in the October-November timeframe, but people are just naturally off work. They've got snow days. People are coming back from school, college, people have time off work. And you generally just see an uptick in the player count over that time period. Because while people generally, will travel a little bit, during the winter months, it's not nearly as much as, say, during like the summer months where people are taking vacations to beaches. And, most people are probably not taking, their laptop to the beach with them so that they can continually do raids while they're at Ocean City. But there are some of you out there that are that dedicated. And I'm one of them. But overall, here is the actual ESO trend. We'll go throughout the months here. And you can generally see big major updates. You have your Q2 updates, that have the major zones. Halfway through the year, you'll see an increase around then. And you'll see a bit of a dip off as people, take their July vacations. People are out and about doing things over the summer months. You'll see that uptick then occur in the holiday periods. Everybody's coming back, for Christmas, loading up ESO. There's also a lot of ESO in-game events during that time period as well. And that's another thing that's a bit hard to track because every year they're slightly different on when they do them, just because sometimes they do them in different times of the month. Sometimes they do them in different months altogether. But generally, there are more ESO events at the latter end of the year to kind of also, close the gap on time between new updates and things. And you sometimes will see that at the beginning of the year also, just because, same concept, gets you to that first Q1 update, which is usually in the spring. Sometimes, too, you'll see big upticks in the January time period as well. Sometimes I think that's due to the hype around that time period. Oftentimes, the ESO developers will build lots of hype around their newest updates, and sometimes that will also see a big return to the player base. Anytime I see a big update, for No Man's Sky on the horizon, even if it's not out yet, I still load it up just to see what's going on. Similar concept with ESO as well. And that takes us through to our current numbers here. And so with only 14 days to sell your items on the ESO Guild Traders, it is very important to kind of get an idea as to when items will be selling. We talked about when the updates are, and it's important to know that usually the Q2 update brings in the most amount of new players. Bethesda will absolutely push out, and ZeniMax themselves as well will push out tons of new advertising, tons of new videos dedicated to new players. Q4 update is usually geared towards returning players. For newer players, you generally want to sell things like XP potions, lower grinding sets. They're going to be researching trait items. They're going to be doing level up, gear. They're going to be buying low level gear to level up in, and all those types of things. When it comes to returning players, when you have a returning player update like this Q4, they're going to be buying PvP sets, PvP consumables, both of which are probably going to see an uptick in common items like the... Sorry, I'm laughing because somebody sent this to me. You're going to see an uptick in a lot of consumables. But another major thing to consider too is what event is going on during this time period, because a lot of times the ESO events will also give you different bonuses and rewards. If it's a double XP event, people are probably going to want to stack and farm XP during that event just because, hey, they're already getting XP during that event, why not double it? If they're there farming the Imperial City, if they're farming Cyrodiil Battlegrounds, They probably want to make sure that their gear is upgraded as much as possible. It's also recent if there's a lot of new PvP sets changes in the meta. And also, too, they're going to need a lot of consumables. They're going to need potions. They're going to need all that good stuff as well. The Witches Festival. Similarly, double XP event. People use the Witches Festival to farm XP, especially because a lot of times you can still farm XP and get tons of reward boxes. So, same concept. It's also, too, at the time period of the year. The Witches Festival takes place over the Halloween week. A lot of people are off playing ESO. A lot of people are logging in during that event, too. So, you're going to see an uptick in the entire economy as a whole, because you're going to see people coming back to the game. You want more people on the game when you're selling an item, because that just means that you have more people to potentially purchase them from. Technically, it could also lead to more people selling items, but usually, especially if you're in Mournhold, you're always going to see consistently a ton of people, 500 almost capped guilds throughout the year, and people are going to usually be keeping their listings full. So usually the economy doesn't become too flooded with additional supply outside of these events, because usually there'll be people who are always looking to find the gaps in the economy, but that is something that still can occur, so just keep all of that in mind as well. And so everyone, I hope this video was helpful. If you guys have any thoughts, ideas, and please leave a comment below. What is the crown to gold ratio for your console or for your system? I know that if you refer to a PC as a console, they drive you insane, even though I'm pretty sure the dictionary definition of a console could also meet the definition of a PC, but if I'm wrong on that, tell me in the comments below and absolutely flame me, but please flame me while you're hitting the like button. So, thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you have to do to enter is leave a comment in the comments below. Second thing is just make sure you're subscribed/follow on Twitch and Twitter. And the third thing is look for a hidden word to be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to comment that word, you will win. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.